Hey guys, welcome to Bridge to the Future, the show where we look at humanity's past, look at our present, and look to the future on how we can create a better world for every member of the human race. I'm your host, Ray Davis. Well, the present is certainly taking precedence right now. As we speak this morning on Sunday, March the 29th, we see the coronavirus spreading around the world and the United States now becoming the epicenter of that pandemic. This morning, Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is leading the president's coronavirus task force, told Jake Tapper on CNN's State of the Union that he anticipates that millions of Americans will eventually be infected, and we could see as many as 100 to 200,000 deaths in this country from this virus. As I've been speaking about online, it's so important in these times that we take a very balanced approach to how we're looking at this situation. On the one hand, you have the Chicken Little crowd, the crowd that's saying the sky is falling, all is going to fall apart, and everything's going to change for the worse. And I think we need to avoid that mentality. On the other side, you have the people who really are not taking this seriously yet. And I was looking at the state statistics this morning, and it's clear right now that in the United States, at least, that New York is far and away the epidemic center. A lot of other states, our state of Kansas here is still reporting just 5 deaths from the virus. Next door state, Missouri, was just reporting 11. Here in the middle of the country, for a lot of people, this still feels like kind of a faraway fantasy. But as we watch what's going on in Europe, we watch what's going on in New York, we have to know that if we don't take smart precautions, we're all going to be dealing with this in our laps. So how do we stay balanced in a situation like this? On the one hand, we want to stay optimistic and avoid fearful mindsets. We certainly want to avoid fear-mongering or creating panics and things like that. On the other side, we want to look at this clear-eyed. This is a serious situation, and whatever else might be going on, we are dealing with a serious pandemic here. For all of us, we bring our own mental and intellectual baggage with us into a situation like this. There are many people out there who feel that this is some sort of an attempt to take the president down, and we've certainly seen evidence in the past 3 years that there are people who want to do that, and there probably are people who are trying to figure out a way to use this situation to do that, but that's not what this situation is about. There are people who, just like we saw after 9/11, who would like to use a situation like this to maybe increase police powers and surveillance powers a little bit. And while that's something we need to be very vigilant about going forward, that's not what this is about. I'm sensitive to the risks to our freedoms in this situation, and it's clear we've passed a Rubicon. You know, the Rubicon was a river that Caesar crossed that really was kind of the point of no return when he came back to Rome and came into power. And so it's been used as a metaphor in history as kind of a turning point in a situation. And we have crossed a Rubicon here. Never again will it be as hard as it was before this to shut society down for various reasons. And we do need to be really concerned and vigilant about that, both now and after this crisis. But we also need to take into account that there's a real wolf at our door here. There are people really dying out there, and all of us are really at threat from this virus. And we need to take that seriously. So how do we stay balanced? The way we stay balanced is we don't give in to Chicken Little scenarios, but we also don't stick our heads in the sand like the ostrich. The middle ground here is to be smart, be wise, take care of ourselves and each other, not give in to the fear, but also not underestimate what we're facing. It's important in this moment, as Dennis Nappy and I, my Sixth Sense media partner, talked about in a recent podcast, that we see the opportunities that are presenting themselves here. We're going to see huge advances in telemedicine. We're going to see huge advances in distance learning, in 3D printing, in innovations that never would have come about had this crisis not happened. But all of that is for after the crisis. For now, we need to do what's smart to protect all of us and to protect our freedoms and not to give in to the fear. This crisis does not represent the end for the human race or the end of our country or probably even the end of our economy, even though that's been suggested as well. Somehow we will get through this. We've been through difficult things before, wars, famines, pandemics, and we've made it through, and we'll make it through this. But we need to take this seriously for the next few weeks. Because if we don't, we are ensuring the worst case scenario, and none of us want that. If you look right now at the global statistics, about 40% of people who wind up sick with this virus and in a hospital die. Now, you'll hear on the news that the mortality rate is 3.5% or 2% or numbers like that. And that's true if you take into account the number of deaths versus the total number of known cases. And some people will argue that, well, there are even way more cases than we even know about. So the number is even way lower. Here's the point. If you get this virus and you get it bad enough that you wind up in the hospital, right now the numbers say that you have about a 40% chance of dying, about a 60% chance of surviving at the end of the day. So the key is to not put more people than necessary into that situation. And the way we do that is to stay smart. It's okay to be optimistic and see the best possible outcomes here. And mentally, we should really be focusing on that because there is power in our collective thoughts. But we also need to be smart with our actions and our behaviors. Otherwise, we are subjecting ourselves to a longer situation with more detrimental effects. Someday, we will all be able to look back at 2020 and say, do you remember when? This year is going to have an asterisk next to it forever. For all the events that have been canceled, all the things that we didn't do this year that we normally do in our societies. But it can be a springboard for something better into the future if we let it be. But first we've got to emerge from the crisis. And the best way to do that is to take this seriously. Not to run away in fear, not to worry ourselves to death, but to take this seriously so that as many people as possible can move through this situation and we can move on with our lives. And the quicker we take that seriously, the quicker that will happen. This is Ray Davis. This has been Bridge to the Future. I hope you'll like and subscribe below. We'll be doing more shows about the human past, the human present, and the human future, looking for a way to build a better tomorrow for all of humanity. Everybody take care, and I will talk to you again soon.